So I'm going to make envelope pillows for our bedroom, and just wanted to share a video of how I'm going to go about doing this. So what you'll need fabric of your choice, and I've chosen a fabric that's going to go very well with our room decor. It's got some earthy tones in it, coppers, etc., greens. You also need thread that matches your fabric, that complements your fabric. You need scissors, pens, fabric measuring tape, of course your sewing machine, as well as paper and pen to write with. You'll also need an ironing board, which is set up in another room. I don't have space for it here. And then you'll also need a pillow form. So we're changing the decor for our bedroom, and before, this eggplant dark deep purple color worked, and I don't want to get rid of the pillow because I may want to use it. So what I want to do is just cover it in something that matches. So I'm going to use an existing pillow as my pillow form with this project. So those are the materials that you're going to need. We will start the project, and what you're going to do is you will start by measuring your pillow and recording what those measurements are, and adding some addition for seams and hems. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure the width of it, and I'm going to follow the tag here and call that my base, so that I know that I'm not measuring the same side twice. So to measure the width of the pillow, I'm just going to go from the seam on the side to the other seam on the other side, and pulling kind of snug. And so that measures about 26 inches. So my width is going to be 26 inches, and I'm going to record that. All right, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 5/8 of an inch for both of the inseams on the sides. And I'll show you my paper when I'm done. Okay? And then what I'm going to do next is measure around the pillow. And so I'm going this way now, and I'm going to measure around the pillow. So I'm taking the measuring tape all the way around the pillow. It's kind of wide and hard to do while I'm sitting, but not impossible. Maybe if I lay it flat. There we go. So again, I'm going to pull it kind of snug. All right, and this is measuring for me at about, I would say 51.5. Okay, so that's 51.5 around 51.5 inches. And so what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to add 1 inch for both sides for a hem. And then because they're envelope pillows, there's a flap in the back, and so I'll need to account for that. So I'm going to do that at about a 2.5 inches, and I'm just going to add that one time. Okay. All right. And I'll just kind of show you, because I doubt that you can see it from all the way back here, so I'll zoom in the camera so that you can see what those measurements turned out to be. Okay, so here you have it. The width was 26 inches, and I added 5/8 of an inch for both sides for the inseam, and so that gave me 26 and 10/8. And of course, once you break that down, it actually ends up being 27 1/4 inches. And then around the pillow was 51.5 inches. I added 1 inch for the hems that's going to go on each side, and then I added an additional 2.5 inches for the flap that's the overlay on the back. Okay, so now that I have the measurements for my fabric, I'm going to take and I'm going to cut my fabric out to size based on those measurements. Now, I will tell you a secret. When it comes to fabric, there aren't any hard and fast rules. Whatever works for you. I happen to be at Bed Bath & Beyond, and they actually had this. It's a shower curtain. And it was on sale. And it was like the perfect match. I didn't want to have to go to Joann's Fabric and find any fabric. So I'm going to try to get creative and see if I can make this shower curtain fabric work for my pillows. And it's very heavy, so it works well. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut the fabric out to size for my pillows. I have cut the fabric to the size based on the measurements that I needed. I did have to make a minor adjustment because since I'm working with the shower curtain and being creative to use that fabric to make a pillow, one of the hems was already done for me. And so I don't have to do that one. So I just adjusted the measurement down by a full inch. And so now I just have to do this one side, which I have folded over a 1/2 inch over a 1/2 inch. So that's the 1 inch hem that we're working with. And what I want to do now is just put this through the sewing machine and go ahead and get this hem into place here. I've sewn the hem shut, and I've done that for both of the pieces of fabric since I'm making 2 pillows. And now what I want to do is create the envelope for the pillow to go in. And in order to do that, I've got to create a 2.5 inch overlap that I measured for in the beginning of the measuring process. What you want is you kind of want just think about it being the back of the pillow. The envelope is how the pillow form is going to go inside. And so what you want to do is you kind of want that to be in the center, so to speak, of the back side. So as much as possible, try to get it to where the 2.5 inch overlap is roughly about the center of the pillow. So there are a couple of checkpoints you can do. So you can work on your overlap, make sure that it measures 2.5 inches. And all I'm doing is just looking at how much I got. And I know that's out of control, like way more than 2.5 inches. So I'm just going to adjust the overlap until it measures about 2.5 inches. All right. And so right now this is saying here is about a 2.5 inch overlap. You see that? So I'm going to pin that down. But what I also want to do before I get too far is go back to, once I do the 2.5 inch overlap, does that give me remember we measured around the pillow, and for mine around the pillow was 51.5 inches, which works out to be about 25.75 inches halfway, since this is folded over. So if I did my measurements and everything correctly, and if I cut correctly, I should be about 25.75 inches. So I am with this 2.5 inch overlap. All right, and so according to this is where my 2.5 is for this end. And so I'm gonna pin it. What I want to do is measure this end to make sure I'm at about 25.75 inches. I'm gonna push my sewing machine off. This actually on this end with the 2.5 inch overlap, it's got me at 26.5. So that's why it's good to have the second checkpoint. So somewhere in my cutting, my measurements kind of got off. You know how sometimes your fabric isn't all that straight and you think it is. So what I'm going to do is, while I have the chance, is I am going to adjust this in for what I need it to be in order to have I'm more interested in the width of my fabric once it goes on the pillow being appropriate. Pull it in just a little. Yeah, so I'm more concerned with the width of the final piece being right. Okay, and so this says that it's about right. All right, so what I'm gonna do now that I have my overlap done, I'm just gonna turn it to the side, and this is where I'm gonna put my seam on the fabric. All right. Again, when you're sewing, just allow the sewing machine to do most of the pulling. You don't need to do anything but guide the fabric essentially as you're going through. Alright, and if you get to a pin, be sure to take your pin out. And hopefully this will not have any issues going through. And it just might. Alright. I'm trying to keep the fabric straight and I'm just guiding it through the machine without putting a lot of pressure or tension on it. When you get to the end, you want to do your reverse. Alright. Okay, and so I'm going to repeat the exact same thing on the other side. And what I've learned is that you may want to cut your edges off. Don't cut the thread, but just beyond the thread on your edges, because that'll prevent the edges from looking and being very bulky.
Hey, Mommy. Hey, Mama.
Hi, baby.
So how are we doing?
I'm doing well. How are you? Okay, so I've just completed this other side and I cut the edges off to remove any possibility of it being bulky. And I'm going to go through and I am going to sew this side of the pillow. So I'm through with that. And again, I don't want to cut beyond the thread that I just included in there, but I do want to cut some of this corner off at an angle, because I've learned from looking at tutorials and things and just from my own experience that it helps to remove the bulkiness when you go to flip it inside out. Okay, this is what you have. And now what I want to do is I'm going to turn this inside out. Or actually right side out now, because I've been working with it backwards, just so that you can see the finished product. All right. And so you push those corners out a little bit like that. And if you didn't cut that angle off, then you would still have a lot of bulkiness in there. So it's good to cut the angles off. And I might need to go in and maybe cut a little more of this angle off, because see how it's kind of bulky there. I just want you to see what the final product looks like. All right, and so here you have your pillow, and you have your opening in the back, and that's where you would go to stuff your pillow in. It would go inside there. Here you have your finished product. So yeah, the pillow stuffed in there. Remember, it's a previous pillow. I just didn't want to get rid of it. I also didn't want to ruin it in case I want to take it out and use it as the deep purple that it is. And so I just used the envelope to stick that in. That's your pillow.